we're gonna go ahead and make a sauce on the stove, and we're gonna pour that on top of our apples and mix it. And then we're gonna put that in our pie dish. You weren't expecting that, were you? Our dough is in the fridge, chilling. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna prep our apples. There's several reasons why many people just buy an apple pie out of the store and they don't even bother making it themselves. A lot of times people have no idea what kind of apples they should be using. The apples you're gonna use are the apples that you have. There are better choices than others, but you use what you have. The red delicious apples that are obviously cheaper will be very soft and they will not hold up and you will not get that bite of the apple. But will you still have a pie? You surely will. It just might be a little wetter than if you use another apple. Granny Smith is tart and it holds up well to heat where it softens, but you can still get that bite. And that's why a lot of people use Granny Smith apples. You could use a lot of other varieties as well. I have 2 Honey Crisp because they're very expensive. That's all I could afford. I have several Gala apples and then Granny Smith. So that's what I'm using. Along with not knowing what kinds of apples to use, a lot of people don't know what technique to use. There's 2 basic techniques in making an apple pie. One method is just slicing your apples, adding a little lemon juice, adding sugar, some cinnamon or apple pie spice, dot it with a little butter, and put it in the oven. This method is tried and true and people swear by it, but others don't like that because sometimes the apples get too soggy and wet and you have a wet, soggy pie. The alternative method is to cook your apples and make basically an apple sauce on the stove, not cooking your apples too much, and then putting it basically all done in the pie. So you're really just baking the pie crust and really just thickening the sauce in the oven. And that works very well as well. But a lot of people don't like that because sometimes the apples can get a little too soft when it gets in the oven. If you've never made an apple pie before, or if you're not a fan of either of those methods, so that's why you just don't bother, you just buy it from the store, I'm gonna show you another method and I think you're gonna love it. You can't have an apple pie unless you peel all your apples. I'm making a double batch of my apple pie filling. During Christmas and Thanksgiving, I always want homemade fresh apple pie and pumpkin pie. That's always my goal. I don't like to buy it out of the store because I love to make it myself. But I end up, a lot of times, we just don't have a pie because I just never got around to it. Or I just know from experience that I'm not gonna get to it, and so I just buy it from the store. There's so much going on in the house that day. The turkey has to be done and there's so much side dishes that need the oven. So then you gotta get the turkey out of the oven and then you gotta put those in the oven, and there's everything everywhere. Your counter space is full. The kitchen is full. Everyone's in and out. They're hungry. And now you gotta go make a pie crust and you gotta chill it, and then you gotta cut up your apples, peel and core them and cut them up and prep it. And when do you have time to do that on the day of the holiday? You don't. You can pre-bake your pie the night before, but you know, the day before the holiday, you're kind of busy as well, especially if it's Christmas. You got Christmas Eve, you got church service. If it's Thanksgiving, you know, everyone's already started being on holiday from the Wednesday before. So you kind of get really busy. You can make your pie dough a month, 2 months in advance. And you could put it in the freezer. You can take this filling and you can freeze it. And you just take your filling out, I would say a couple hours ahead, so it can come to room temperature. And you just roll your pie dough out, or just use store-bought pie dough, that's fine. And you just put your filling in, and you got yourself pie. And you didn't even have to bother that day. Now, does anyone want to come and help me peel all these apples? This is really the hardest part about apple pie. It's peeling all these apples. So what do you do for your holidays? What is your dessert of choice? What are the desserts that you can't do without on your holidays? Is it apple pie or is it another pie? I love pumpkin pie. Oh my gosh. And my pumpkin pie no-bake cheesecake, oh, it's so delicious. I'm gonna link that recipe for you. You're gonna wanna try that. Now we're just gonna slice up our apples. You could do them in cubes, but I like to do them lengthwise. You know they have apples in the store now already cut up for you. You could use that too. Yeah, even if you're lazy, you can make apple pie. When you put that warm ice cream on top of it, this is all gonna be worth it, I promise. While I'm chopping the rest of those up, I'm just gonna put a little bit of lemon juice on them so they don't turn too brown. Although, you're still gonna eat it, it's gonna be good. I already told you my method is not going to be traditional, so I'm not adding my sugar, my butter, or anything in here. My method to do my apple pie is going to be making a sauce on the stove and pouring it on top of my apples and then baking it. So come on, let's go to the stove and make our sauce. I'm making a double batch. I'll write the ingredients for a single apple pie down below in the description box. You're just gonna melt your butter. You're basically making a roux. When all your butter is melted, you're gonna go and add your flour. And on medium heat, you're gonna cook it down. I use salted butter, so I'm not gonna add any salt. You wanna cook it a little bit because you don't really want that flour taste. You wanna kind of cook that out. Now we're gonna add our sugar and our water. And our homemade apple pie spice. I have a video to show you how to make this at home. You don't have to buy those expensive spices. You can make them at home. Look above, I'll link that video for you. We're just gonna cook this down and simmer it just for a little bit until it's nice and it thickens a little bit. And that should be good. That apple pie spice, this smells so good. We're gonna pour this on our apples and we're going to mix it. Remember that sauce is gonna also thicken in the oven. Our bottom crust has been chilling and we're gonna put in our pie filling. We're gonna bake at 425 for 15 minutes and then turn it down to 350 for another 40 minutes, 45 minutes, just until it's nice and golden bubbly brown. My pie has been in the oven for a total of an hour, 15 minutes at 425, and then I put it to 350. I did not even check to see if it was burning. I just left it. And when the buzzer went off, I was like, oh, I was supposed to check on this. So let's get this pie out of the oven. Now, I don't know about you, but I am hungry for this pie, and I have some nice cold vanilla ice cream in the freezer. You have to let the juices all settle. Right now, if you cut into it, it's just gonna leak and seep. 4 hours is a long time, but I still have to wait at least an hour. The minimum is at least 1 hour. 1 hour. Now you're gonna say, that looks like a different pie. Yes, that's a different pie. I made another pie. I just didn't think I let it sit long enough, and I think it was too runny when I cut the first pie, and I just wanted to do a little thicker sauce. For some reason I wanted to try another way, see what happens, and I cut my apple slices a little thinner, and I just wanted to test it out. And this time I made my sauce thicker by using extra flour, and it kind of looked really thick in the end. I was kind of concerned, but it actually did very well when the apples released their juices. I think it just was perfect. My daughter loves the first one. I love this one. I used chai spice for this one. She didn't like that. I loved it. So you could do so many different variations. The first one, I thought the apples was a little too thick and they didn't get a little softer. This one was perfect. She liked them thicker and crunchier. So it's your world. You just do what you want. You make your pie your way. I totally forgot to turn on the oven. So it was on 425 for a half hour before I remembered. Then I cut it down. Then I had to use my foil to cover it. And then I finished it off and it cooked for a whole hour and it was beautiful. Left this. I think I amazed my own self. This is perfect. I don't think I've had apple pie this good. Oh my gracious. I actually did it! I made a good apple pie.